Hi, and welcome to our latest virtual Masters Club event. Bienvenue à notre événement virtuel du Club des Maîtres. We begin this evening with a tribute to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. She was, for some Masters Club members, the only monarch they have known in their lifetime. It's undeniable that Her Majesty was a large part of the Royal Canadian Mint's history, featuring on each of our legal tender coins, but also across several commemorative coins over the years. I'm joined by Jamie Desrochers, Program Manager of the Master Club Loyalty Program, to pay tribute to Her Majesty. Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm happy to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about the Queen and how she figured on all of her coins.
Okay. So the Royal Canadian Mint is mourning the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. It's been more than 70 years since Canada witnessed a change in monarchy. So it's something that people haven't really seen. A change in monarch, and by default our effigy, which figures in all our coins, is something we haven't seen since 1952-53. As most of our Masters Club members know, though, all of our coins are legal tender coins, so including numismatic coins, and they feature the effigy of the reigning monarch or past monarchs. So it's something we're very used to seeing on our coins. In regards to Queen Elizabeth II, her effigy had figured on numismatic coins or circulation coins since her tenure. So the image is ingrained in us over the years, and it's changed a lot during the years too, though. So,
can you tell us a bit about all the past effigies of Queen Elizabeth II during her tenure?
Yes, basically it's been like a snapshot of her life, which I find really interesting and I love. It's like a timeline of her reign in a lot of ways. So we started off with the beginning, which is in 1953. So from 1953 to 1964, we had the effigy that was done by Mary Gillick, and Queen Elizabeth at the time was 27. So this effigy was actually used until 1964. At the time, we used to follow the Royal Mint's effigies, and that's something important to remember for later. We'll talk about that. But basically, it's my favorite effigy. And the inscription on the obverse of the coin was Elizabeth II de Gracia Regina. So it's one that really stands out because the Queen is much younger and she has a laurel wreaths in her hair. The second effigy is from 1965 and it went to 1989 and was done by Arnold Mackin. And when the Queen posed for that one, she was 39 years old. So you could see again the progression in the timeline. It's one that most of us know best, I think. It was around the longest and most people really, it resonates with them. They remember it as the tiara effigy. But the inscription on that one was actually shortened. So it's DG Regina, which we see on all our coinage today. So it was shortened from the original. And then we actually moved on in 1990, and this was an important effigy because although the Queen turned 64 years old, it was the first time that a Canadian artist actually designed and sculpted the effigy of the Queen, which is really interesting. So Dora Pidry Hunt was the artist on that. It's the first time that someone other than a British citizen had actually designed an official depiction of the Queen, which is unprecedented at the time. And Dora actually sculpted this one herself, which is interesting. Yeah, it's I've actually seen the sculpts out of clay and the models for that. They're at the Museum of the Bank of Canada, which is really interesting. And then she did the plasters herself, which is a lost art, really, when you think about it. So, yeah. So from 2003 to 2022, our current effigy was another Canadian artist called Susanna Blunt. And the Queen was 76 years old when depicted on this effigy. So Blunt's version actually kind of recalls the effigy of King George VI, who was also chose to be portrayed without a crown. So as you all know, she's not wearing a crown in that effigy. So it makes it a little bit different than other effigies of Queen Elizabeth throughout the world. And that is the last effigy with Her Majesty on Canadian currency.
Interesting. Imagine creating a sculpture or a plaster of an effigy. I'd be a fly on that wall in that studio. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and if you ever you have the chance, or our Master's Club members have the chance to go to the Bank of Canada and see them, I really highly recommend it. It's beautiful to see it in person too. Something that you've seen on your coins, especially the people that have coinage from the 1990s. You'll recognize that. So,
how has the Mint handled a switchover from one monarch to the next in the past?
This isn't the first time we've had to change effigies, but it is the first time that as a fully fledged mint, we've been able to do it. In 1936, following the passing of King George V, preparations began on a new obverse for 1937, featuring the effigy of King Edward VIII. But the abdication crisis in December 1936 caused an unexpected delay, and concerns of a possible shortage of coins led to an extraordinary issue. So a lot of our customers and our Masters Club members will recognize this as the dot coin. The reverse of those coins had a small dot that was there, and it was basically to signal the transition between the monarch. Masters Club members will know that this is a very rare coin. It's actually marked by the raised dot on the reverse, and it's bearing the old King George V obverse, and it's called the 1936 dot most of the time. The 1936 dot 10-cent coin is actually one of the rarest Canadian coins ever produced. And it is one of the most coveted coins, of course, but another one that is in the Bank of Canada Museum, and I strongly recommend people go find it.
Noted.
1947 was a different story. So there was a small maple leaf added next to the year to denote the coins that were struck with the old obverse while the Royal Canadian Mint waited for master tooling. So you recall I told you that the Royal Mint gave us all of our tooling and our effigies. This was the case as well. So we're basically at this point now in an interesting time, because this is the first time that it's all within the Royal Canadian Mint's hands. So,
what can we expect for the next transition?
So the Mint is prioritizing business continuity while honoring the past monarch. Legal tender status of existing circulation coins doesn't change because Canada's monarch has changed. We know a lot of people are concerned about this, and there's a lot of questions. I know you've gotten a lot of questions about it. But basically the Mint is collaborating with external stakeholders to commemorate Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's historic reign, while we're minimizing impact on operations as well. So we're currently discussing the creation of a commemorative design for all new coins before we adopt a new obverse for future Canadian coins. So in short, we have many plans in the coming months, but we need to be certain to honor the past monarch. And that's the most important thing. So while I can't tell you much about what's going on, and I can't tell our Masters Club members much about what's going on, we will be executing plans, and you'll be seeing the outcome as we announce it. So stay tuned. I can say, despite us mourning Her Majesty, it's going to be an exciting time for coin collectors in general, because the transition is something that a lot of people haven't witnessed themselves. But what I'd encourage everybody is, in the Q&A, write down, what does this mean to you as a coin collector? Because the change is pretty profound. What do you think when it comes to this changeover? What do you think is going to happen? How does that make you feel? So it's something that a lot of people are not used to, and so I'm interested in seeing what our Masters Club members think.
Me too. Let's see what they come up with.
Yeah.
And what was your favorite coin featuring Her Majesty over the years?
That's a good question. There's been so many, but I think that for me, and it's the year I started actually in 2012, one of the coins that really struck me was the Queen's Diamond Jubilee coin, and it actually had a diamond embedded. The Queen had her hand up like this, and it almost looked like the diamond was floating, which I thought was really ingenious. It was a beautiful coin, a little out of my price range, but I thought it was really nice. But I'm actually curious about what your favorite coin is.
Mine is a recent one.
Yeah.
It's this year's Lover's Knot Tiara. There was a silver version and there was a gold version. If remembers, remember, on the front of the coin, you had pearls on the front of the tiara.
Yeah.
But what attracted me to the coin was the back of the coin. The back of the coin has all 4 effigies of the queen. And as an amateur historian myself, that I particularly loved. You can see her reign from A to Z. You can see her transition from a young woman to the ruler that she became at the end, and it marked something in me. It's something that I really enjoyed to see.
Yeah, that coin is special because of the obverse on it. It's beautiful because you do get that kind of timeline, and like I was saying before, like the effigies are a snapshot of her life. So having it all on one coin is really cool.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank you for sitting with me and paying tribute to such a remarkable monarch. As a Masters Club member, we always provide the best and exclusive content, and our next segment is no exception. Recently, we've launched a new commemorative circulation coin program to celebrate the life and accomplishments of Oscar Peterson, a Canadian legend in jazz music. He was one of the greatest pianists the world has ever seen, and Canada is proud to call him one of our own. Throughout his extraordinary 6-decade career, Oscar Peterson kept audiences spellbound throughout his displays of virtuosity and musicality. Tonight, we'll review Oscar Peterson's life through the people that knew and were inspired by him. We will also have 2 exclusive interviews. First up, we have Valentine Di Leandro, the artist responsible for the Oscar Peterson coin. We'll chat about his inspirations for the coin design. After that, we'll speak to Konrad Wojcielko, the engraver of the coin. We'll see how he turned a 2D design into 3D. We often say at the Royal Canadian Mint that everything starts with art. For the suite of Oscar Peterson coins, the art started with Valentine Di Leandro. Valentine Di Leandro is a Canadian artist, illustrator, and designer. Comic book fans may recognize his credits include Marvel, DC Comics, and Dark Horse. He joins us from his home to discuss the design process of the Oscar Peterson coins. Hi, Valentine.
Hi, how are you?
Not bad yourself?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Our Masterclass members are going to be absolutely delighted to hear what we're going to talk about today.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. That sounds awesome.
First off, do you mind telling us about a little bit about your artistic background?
I'm trained mainly as an illustrator and a graphic designer. I worked for several different publishing companies doing different parts of the job that have to do with layout and design and creative, and so I've essentially stretched as much as I can, trying to find a career in art, and just tried a lot of different artistic backgrounds and mediums until I just actually landed into illustration.
Oh, that's great. So you dabbled pretty much in everything, and it brought you to us to design the Oscar Peterson coins. It's not your first coin with us. You've designed the Second World War battlefront, the invasion of Sicily, back in 2018. The design, was it a lot different than your daily tasks that you do for creating different pieces of art?
Well, I mean, that was my first actual opportunity to work on a coin, so that was a great introduction to the learning process, because it is actually quite fascinating to try and realize that you're working on a canvas, but where the art is going to live is going to be reduced so incredibly, not to the point where it's not perceivable, but it's very small in comparison to the size of the canvas that you're working on. So that was the challenge. I think that the challenge there with that first coin really opened my eyes to seeing how much you could stretch this very small canvas and get in so much information, and also be grounded narratively, and also provide all of the information and all the detail that you need in order to make the image and the art convincing and relate to the topic. If there were a lot of different aspects that I had to make sure that they were all represented properly. So it was very challenging. It's still challenging to try and work on these coins, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, especially once I think that the final product was successful. I think that was very gratifying.
Oh yes, our Masterclass members really did enjoy that design. No doubt about that. A little known aspect of your coin design is that each coin has an actual competition where several artists submit their work. What were your thoughts when you were approached with this design?
Try not to think about, I guess, the other artists. There's always a lot of competition in my field, in specifically when I think about being a comic book artist and knowing that there's only so many books out there in a work for hire venue that you could be casted for. So it was sort of the same rhythm there. You know, you get the brief and you just sort of put your head down and you realize, I'm just going to try and create this, or at least submit some creative that is the best that I can represent, the best way that I can actually acknowledge and bring forward the ideas and the images that are necessary to create the final product. So I would always take to heart knowing that, you know, at least I think I put out my best effort in terms of how I could creatively represent whatever the idea or the art direction was asking of me. So, yeah, and it's always great when I know that I've actually made it through to another round.
I guess, well, when you started the original the design to the final product, it quite changed and quite evolved. If you don't mind, let's walk through the process of what is actually entailed into creating a coin. So, what media did you use to create this design?
Uh, Mainly digital. I've in the last few years I've started shifting to a more digital format. So I still trying to find a way to blend the workflow, because I do like to use traditional media. I do like to still pull out a pencil and a paper. It's a tried and true method. So I still rely on that quite a bit. But right now I've been using an iPad a lot, and that helped immensely with the coin creation, just because I could shrink it down. I could alter the size when I needed to see all of the details large when I was drawing it, and then reduce it and see if everything still made sense, or if it was just if all the details were too muddled. And then I could start pulling details out. I could start putting some more in. Things that I could do digitally now help speed up the process, and it gives me a way to continuously edit without without erasing and going through so much paper, I guess.
That's interesting. It puts a different perspective into coin creation. I never would have thought of using an iPad to enlarge or make things smaller. It's always a perspective of let's put it pen to paper and try to create a design. But this specific design, it looks like an album cover. What were your inspirations for the composition of the design?
I leaned heavily into the art direction, and Libby Sim provided a really great direction for this project. And when I got the package, already, again, I was admittedly a huge Oscar Peterson fan. So when I was able to read the brief, and it mentioned, you know, listen to his music and learn a little bit more about him in order to get more of a feel of him as a person, as well as being a musician and a phenomenal pianist. I sort of already had a little bit of that work done already, because I was familiar with his music. That put me into that mindset where, you know, I wanted to try and reflect and present more of his musical style, his improvisational musical style. That weighed heavily into my design. Like, how do you draw music?
Interesting. You mentioned you were a fan. Were you inspired by the Hymn of Freedom? Was there a different song that inspired you to create the design? Or was there an era, seeing that his career spanning over so many years, were you able to pinpoint a specific song that motivated you?
No, nothing specifically. I mean, it was more. I was relying more on a feeling. I was relying more on the feeling I had when I first heard him live, because I was working at a music hall when he performed, and I was able to go and hear him perform. Like that first time I heard him play, and the first time I saw him play, it wasn't even so much hearing him as much as it was watching him perform was a great experience. It's something that I still remember. So that I think was something that I was sort of trying to tap into while I was trying to work through the creative as well. I mean, it felt like something. So it's one of those things that's my experience, right? That's something that nobody else is going to have. When you hear a piece of music for the first time, when you read a book for the first time, it was one of those. It was one of those feelings that I felt actually very lucky that I was able to tap into something like that and try and find a way to channel it into the designs that I submitted.
So was that experience what translated into putting the musical notes into the coin of the Hymn of Freedom? Is that what motivated the design?
The art direction did call to include something from the hymn to freedom in the final design, whether it be uh, through the lyrics, or through a bar of some of the music. Um, and I admittedly I am not a musician. My wife actually, she has a musical background, and so does my mother-in-law, who still teaches piano right now. I was able to actually show them some things and see if I could actually represent, if I was representing it properly. So they were very good editors. They were harsh but fair. I actually did submit a design as well that did have the lyrics. There was something about, I think, just seeing the bar of music flowing around him that felt. I mean, aesthetically, I think it probably pulled off the design a little bit better. There was just something about having him surrounded by the music. I think that's what worked a little stronger than just having the lyrics incorporated into the design as well, like as actual words.
But you mentioned you had some background editors at home, maybe some work throughs at work as well. I'm curious, how many iterations did you end up going through to end up with the final design?
I mean, his Oscar Peterson's estate, and I say that formally, but I mean it was his family, his wife and his children, his daughter. They were involved very very early on when we were trying to make sure that his likeness was done properly. So between his estate working on his likeness, and then it was the Royal Conservatory that was making sure that the music was authentic. There was a bit of back and I think it was actually a little heavier on the Royal Conservatory side, just working through making sure that I drew the notes and that wave of music properly. It took a while. I think it was all every edit was worth it. I think every edit and every revision that we went through was necessary in order to reach that final design.
Oh yeah, mission accomplished. I'm pretty sure our Massico members are going to hold this coin with pride into their pocket and see it every day for sure. And since this struck a personal chord for you, how did it feel to be a part of a coin that speaks so much of a well-loved and historical Canadian?
It's humbling to know that I was a part of that in any stretch or form of the imagination. Just as someone who appreciates him as a performer, as an artist, as a musician, as a composer, and then to realize his significance as a Canadian, and as a black man. It's a lot. It's a lot to try and sift through, but I'm trying to embrace all of that in terms of the significance, even since, I mean, it's been a while since even the launch of the coin, and I'm still like, wow, this actually happened. It's still a bit surreal, let's say.
Well, job well done. It's a really well designed coin. Everyone clearly has nothing but positive words to say about it. So before I let you go, would you like to say any words to our hundreds of Master Club members that have bought this coin and your previous coin?
Oh, wow! Thank you. It's fantastic to be a part of this entire culture that is appreciating not only the coins, but the art and the time that it takes to go into the process of it. And it's just great. I've had such a blast just being a part of this entire journey. It's been great. So I appreciate everybody who does support this as an art form, as collectors. I mean, it's fantastic.
Well, thank you again. We can't thank you enough for the design, for taking a part of our virtual event for a Masters Club member. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Master Club members often tell us that engravers are the rock stars of the Royal Canadian Mint. If that's the case, our next interview should be a standout, as we have engraver Conrad Vahelko joining us to talk about the sculpting of the Oscar Peterson coin. Hi, Conrad.
Hi.
How are you today?
Good.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Master Club event. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
I would first off wanted to ask you, how long have you been an engraver at the Royal Canadian Mint?
It's been about 18 years now.
Wow, what a journey you've been throughout this time. Let's talk about a little bit about the design of the coin. It's a very dynamic design, multiple intricate pieces. How is it difficult to sculpt this on a $1 coin?
Well, it's always a challenge to interpret like the drawing in your mind. So you have to figure out first of all what you how you envision the coin. So once you do that, then you try to sculpt whatever you envision in your mind. So as soon as I had the idea of how I wanted it to look, I was starting the execution. So I started off with creating the body, the form, and then I moved on to the face, the hands, and once I was happy sculpting those areas, some of the challenges were also sculpting the lines for the body and the hands and the face. So one of the things I did was there's an inversion compared to the body and the face. So on the body, the lines are up, and then on the face and hands, they're down, and it sort of creates a nice dynamic between the two differences. And then later on, I moved on to the piano, and I wanted to create like a nice balance between the body, the face, the hands, and the piano. So there was a lot of thought and a lot of sort of trial and error to try to capture a real dynamic piano. So, and to try to balance sort of the negative and positive space between the two elements. And then once I completed that, I started modeling the staff, the notation that sort of sweeps through the top of the piano down towards the hands. And, try to make sure that that looks really nice, complements everything and balances out, adding in the notes. And then after, one of the biggest challenges was actually adding the notation on top. So there was a lot of sort of trial and error to make sure that it's small enough but big enough for people to see. And it's a pretty rare thing to do on a circulation coin. So you have this nice sort of micro engraving on top of the notation there, and it just complements the coin as well. So it's something that people might want to look into a little bit better if they don't see it right away. There's the little notation above, and it's pretty nice detail, and just trying to see the whole vision come together and have everything just have a nice design, have a nice sculpture, and something that complements the original drawing.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and take a look at the micro engraving.
Yeah.
But on certain of the coins, there's a color aspect to it. Does the engraving? Do you have to keep that in mind while engraving it?
Yeah. So basically, there's technical challenges that you have to prepare for. There are engineering requirements that you have to meet. And sometimes it's a challenge to try to fit in. It's a honeycomb pattern that we put in, and just to get it right, make sure that our engineers are happy with what's going to go into production as well. Because it's not just about sculpture; it's also about creating something that could be manufactured. So it goes sort of you have this back and forth between art and engineering to make sure that whatever is created could be produced as well. So you have to take all those technical things into consideration.
Wow, so many dynamic contents to consider. What's it like to engrave a coin that's going to be in the pockets of millions of Canadians for years to come?
It's super exciting. It's almost unbelievable because you'll see videos, you'll see promotions, you'll see prints. Sometimes you'll see like pamphlets, and it's always like, wow, it's like I did this, right? And then it's always sort of like an exciting moment when you get a coin back in your change, and you're like, wow, I did that, or sometimes, you might get a few coins because $1, it's something you could like give away as a present, or, so you could have some and give them away to like friends. You could give them away to like family members and stuff like that. So it's exciting that it's something that like the public is going to be saying, your friends and family are going to be saying. So it's a great feeling. And it's sort of special to do a circulation coin as well, because we don't really put out that many circulation coins. So anytime you have an opportunity to create a circulation coin, it's a really special moment, because it's a rare opportunity, especially when it's something this special where you're commemorating an artist and like you're trying to capture their legacy as well.
I know for myself, if I find it in my change, I'm keeping it. It's not going anywhere else. It's not being spent. When I can imagine there's quite a bit of work put into this. So with sculpting metals and our metals branch, that's something that many coin collectors are curious about. How is it different to work on a circulation coin or even a numismatic coin compared to metals?
Right now, when you're working on a circulation coin, there's a different challenge. Usually on circulation coins, the relief, so the sculpture is a lot lower, because there's different technical restrictions that you have to consider. On a metal, there's a lot more height. It's similar to maybe a kilo or an ultra high relief. Typically with most metals, you have high relief. Also at one point, a lot of the R&D used to be done on metals before we had R&D like as a department. So it was really cool because you sort of, in the beginning, you would create different technologies that later on would be implemented into coins on metals. So, and not only that, usually with metals, you have different shapes. So you're creating more shaped products versus on coins, there's a little bit more of a restriction when it comes to that. It's always exciting. It doesn't really matter what media you're working in. It's always a challenge. It doesn't matter if it's really a coin or a metal. There's always a technical challenge. Doesn't matter what you're doing. So it's sort of similar but different at the same time.
Interesting. Because how you're speaking, there's not one project that's better than the other or preference than the other. It's a new challenge on every coin or metal that you encounter.
Yeah, exactly. So anytime you're doing something, it doesn't matter what it is. There's always a challenge to it, and you're always like using your creativity and your interpretation of how it's going to be. And there's always technical challenges. So anytime you're working on anything, you have to like meet certain requirements and stuff like that. So every product is unique. Every product is going to be a challenge. So anytime you do anything, you're almost like doing something. It's always something new, something challenging.
Interesting. So let me ask you this. What coins are you most proud of? Is it over the engraving, the texture? Is it the ultra high relief? Or is it the coin overall or a metal overall that you'd prefer?
Usually, like, all coins are, like, every coin is cool, right? Like, it's like, you get to sculpt, you get to do something unique, right? some of the things that sort of stick in my mind. There was the first coin I did, which was like, wasn't really a coin, it was a token. So Almont, I really like that. So you never forget the first thing you've sculpted. Then later on, we did the Olympics. So that was cool. We got to work on the Olympic medals. We got to work on the circulation coins. So I did like the hockey, the luge, the biathlon. So that was really cool. It's sort of the same feeling that I have now. Like people get to see like the work that I do. So it's exciting in the same way. And then a couple of years back, I worked on the werewolf. So that was sort of unique and interesting at the same time. So I really enjoyed that. And I really enjoy working on like coats of arms. So in 2021, we had the Black History Month with the coat of arms. So that was really, really neat as well. So I really enjoyed working on that.
Interesting, a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
Some
a little bit of-
circulation.
yeah.
Wow, you've been to you had the privilege of seeing any type of coins that we produced. It's quite interesting to hear you talk about them.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's always a great experience.
I can see that. I'm envious. I do hope our MasterCard members did enjoy this segment. I know I certainly did. Thank you so much for taking the time to come talk to us. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
We are now rejoined by Jamie Desrochers for our new segment we call From the Masters Club Desk. This is your exclusive look at all things Masters Club. Jamie, let's talk about what we have in store for our members.
So I know this is a brand new segment, but it's my favorite segment because I get to talk to Masters Club members. So thank you for having me back. The first thing I wanted to talk about was our annual collection book. So I am very proud. I have a copy right here. I'm very proud of this book. It's beautiful. We've gotten some great feedback from Masters Club members about what changes needed to happen from our 2020 edition. This is a 2021 edition, and there's a lot of great stuff that you can find in here. We've actually included so many little extras that I think a lot of people will be pleased. And if you have it at home, I'm sure you are too. It comes with a poster. A lot of Masters Club members said, bring back the poster from the mid-2000s. We had the cool poster with all the coins of the year, so we have that in there. But I think the biggest thing is probably the special edition uncirculated set. So that one there is actually part of the book, and the book has got a mintage of 4,000. So we actually limited it, which is a great thing. So that special edition uncirculated set is actually, it has all the commemorative coins of 2021, the circulation coins that we had in 2021. They're in a mylar, and they're actually on the front of the book, or on the inside pocket of the book, which is fantastic. So they're all numbered, and there's not many left. So if you don't have it yet, you should probably jump on it. We're very close to being sold out. Next, also, what I wanted to talk about was the end of year. I know, it's summer's almost over. I don't like talking about it, but at the same time, the end of year means that it's time for you to lock into your new Masters Club tier. So the tier that you end up in at the end of December will be the tier you begin 2023 with. With our new program, we started doing that. So if you're close to your next tier, you want to lock into those benefits and you want to get up to the next one. And speaking of which, a good way to do that is with Black Friday. So Black Friday is coming up. It's our biggest event of the year. It's the only time that you really get those great deals. So it's a great opportunity for you to level up. And we've made a few changes. I'm not giving away any spoilers, but we made a few changes this year. I think some changes that people are going to be really happy with. And it's going to make Black Friday even better. So keep an eye out for that. The other thing I wanted to mention was in 2023, we're going to have a benefits update. So we're going to update some of our benefits. We've been doing this program, the new version of our program, since 2021, but we are listening to our customers' feedback, and they've given us some good suggestions to update our benefits. So going to be minor improvements overall, but you should look in your email or your mail for details. We're going to be sending that out quite shortly. And those new updates to the benefits take place January 1st, 2023.
Jamie, you know our Masters Club members love sneak previews. I hope you have something to tease for an upcoming coin launch.
I think I do. So the sneak preview that we're going to be seeing right now is the 2022 $30 fine silver coin, the Red Knight. So I don't know if everybody knew, but before the Snowbirds, there was a Red Knight. From 1958 to 1969, the Red Knight delighted spectators across Canada with awe-inspiring acrobatics. The SRP on this one's actually $199.95. The mintage is 6,500, which isn't very much. And it's fine silver, of course. And we have a diameter of 50 millimeters, so a nice big canvas so we can show off the actual coin. It's got color on it too, and there are two planes. I'm really excited about this one because it's really a dynamic sort of coin where you get really two planes in action, and it's beautiful work. And it's actually going to be available November 1st.
What a fantastic show!
I had a really great time.
I did too. Yeah. I want to thank all of our guests for today's program, and a heartfelt thank you to all of our Masters Club members who joined us. We'll see you at our next Masters Club virtual event.